and you are here with us, with some of the speakers around the world. And well, as it was severally mentioned, this is an event in collaboration with the PMO leader, the PMO Global Alliance, PM officers, and Project Management Institute chapters. And I really, really hope that this event will be beneficial for you. So I don't want to waste more time, and let's jump to our first session, which will be about PMO Trends. And our speaker will be Americo Pinto. Many of you know him. He's the founder and chair of PMO Global Alliance. He's a researcher and international speaker and an author as well. So, Americo, are you here with us?
Yes. Hello, Peter. Good morning from Brazil. Good afternoon, good evening for everyone. Yes, can you hear me? Well, I
Yeah.
think so. Great. Perfect. So thank you, Peter. Thank you for your introduction, your kind introduction. So let's start, right? I will share my screen with you. So there are a couple of slides that I want to share. Okay, now I think you can see them. All right, so today we will talk about PMO trends in a little different way, right? Instead of trying to anticipate trends based on the most, how could I say, the most coolest, the most trendy topics and matters that people are talking about at this moment. Actually, what I'm going to try to do is to share with you something that that came from the experience of the best PMOs in the world. You know that PMO Global Alliance is responsible today for the most prestigious and the largest PMO awards worldwide. So the PMO Global Awards, it's in its 50th edition this year, and we have many PMOs from several different countries participating in this initiative. And something that we usually do every year is to analyze and to study what those PMOs have in common, right? Especially those ones that we could say they have an outstanding performance during the competition, the finalists, the winners. So the idea today is to share with you some insights about this specific topic. So we will talk about trends, but not trying to, bring, as I said, the most trendy topics that we can find in articles, white papers written by consultants or by service providers, but something that really comes from the battlefield, things that we can see at PMOs, so how they are evolving, in which direction they are evolving. Because we know that PMOs are very different, right? So the needs are different, the expectations are different. So what we could say that they have in common, and maybe it can be a good indication, a good indicator about a key factor of success, I think, right? So let's know a little more about that. We know that change is not something new, right? Everything is changing all the time, but we have to recognize that in the last 2 years, we had a very different and specific and special kind of change. So because of the pandemic, companies, people, countries, everyone was impacted by this, you know, big event for the humanity. And this way, everyone had to change something in our lives, right? Uh, Companies had to anticipate some specific trends. They had to anticipate some specific uh, uh, some specific things that they were a little cautious, about those technologies, about those solutions. For example, remote work is something that it's not really new. We have been talking about that in the last, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, maybe a little more. But in the last 2 years, companies had to adopt it. They had to take the risk, and there was no option because actually the scenario was forcing them, pushing them to adopt that kind of trend that in a regular situation possibly would be adopted, but along 4 years, 3, 4 years, 5 years, but it was something like this, and from the night to the morning, most of the companies had to adopt this new trend. And that's exactly what happened with many other possibilities, many other potential trends that we had for PMO. So change is ahead. There is nothing we can do about that. Many things will change, of course, will still change because of this moment that that we are living, and there is nothing that we can do about that. And of course, if companies are impacted by that, PMOs are impacted by these changes, and also us as PMO leaders, PMO professionals. So when we talk about these trends that we see today, there are many possibilities, many alternatives that we see people saying. As I said, we have white papers, we have some, we have some blog posts. There are many different sources. In fact, all of them are much more perspective, a point of view of the authors. And why? Because it's based on their experience, right? It's not a empirical research, when they are really trying to identify the most important trends. It's much more an insight that comes from this individual's experience. And I'm not saying that it's not useful. Yes, they are useful, but it doesn't mean that you should, understand them as something that is the total true, right, for the next years. What I try to do at a first glance is to bring to you some topics that we see many people, talking about them around the world. Again, it comes most from authors, consultants, bloggers. I'm not talking about companies yet, right? Of course, it's an indirect way to tell you what companies are doing, the point of view of these people. But anyway, let me show you some of them. Artificial intelligence. It's something that we see all the time, right? In the last 2 years, people start to talk about that. And it's true that many interesting attempts of bringing artificial intelligence to project management is something that we can see more and more. So it looks that in a few time we will start to see more solutions, more specific opportunities that will make AI very useful for project management. I believe on that. Is it a reality at this moment? Not yet. We have some, attempts. We have some solutions that they say that they use artificial intelligence, but in fact, it's not exactly like that. It's something that we can slightly say that it's AI, really. But anyway, it looks something really interesting. I believe in that. So it possibly 4 years, 5 years. It's not something that is a real urgency, like remote work was. But anyway, there is a very, very interesting very, very interesting opportunities for this specific matter. The second one, hybrid methods. I'm not sure if I can say that hybrid methods or hybrid approaches is exactly a trend, because it's something that we have been observing in many companies, maybe for the last 2, 3 years. We know that there was a big excited wave in terms of agile approaches, and I think it was good for many companies. Maybe we had some over exciting, over exciting perspectives about that, because it can be useful, but not as a magic pill. It can be useful as one more thing that we can bring to our projects, to our companies. And now the most mature companies, they are realizing that a hybrid approach makes sense, because you don't need to, put all your coins, bet all your coins in just one solution, just one approach. You can use what you need depending on your different objectives, right? So it makes much more sense. So with some exceptions, but most of them, the companies that we could say that they are more mature in terms of project management, we could say that they are moving to a more flexible approach. So hybrid in terms of, okay, I'm going to use this when it makes sense for me. I'm going to use that when it's what I need, without too much concern about if one of these different approaches is right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly the idea, I think. Uh, what else? Online training. Again, it's not something easy. I'm sorry, it's not something new, right? Definitely not. But I agree that because of the the need to because of the issue with getting people together, of course, training is still necessary, and the only way is online. So the point here is not exactly the fact that it's a trend. I think that companies now are adopting that much more than in the past. Again, there is no option. Does it mean that it will be kept like that? So in the next years, if we can get to the normal life in some way, right? So online training will be still the focus for many companies. There are some discussions about that, and why? Because online education is something that has a great potential, but you should know how to do that, and many companies and institutions, they are just trying to take what they were doing in person and move that to an online environment. But that's not how things work, So if that's what we are talking about, in my point of view, I believe that possibly we'll step back, right? If there is an opportunity for that. But I see that in the next years, many things will change in terms of online education. So companies will understand this idea much better, and we will see the potential. But again, the potential is not trying to repeat what we are doing presentially, just now in the internet. It's something totally different. The instructional design is totally different. So if that's something that you believe is the future, I believe on that. I would say that we have to understand much better how things will be different, because it is education, of course, but it will be managed and delivered and designed in a totally different way. It's not too simple like it looks at a first glance, right? Another one, remote work. I told you about that. No doubt, remote work is something very, very important. Uh, there are many, many challenges. We are still trying to deal with them, right? I feel that all time, because today I could say that 99% of our team at PMO Global Alliance is working remotely. So it's difficult, not only because of the techniques or the tools, but it's difficult because we still belong to a generation that, something remote is something that we accept, but it's not in our blood, really in our blood. So I believe that the next generations will deal with that much better. But okay, we are here, so that's that's what we have to do, right? We have to deal with this challenge. And again, it's not easy. I also believe that if we get to a reasonable, normal life again after the pandemic. Possibly we'll step back in some specific aspects of the remote work, but it's something that came and it will be here more and more, because there are many, many advantages. We know that, right? And there is nothing we can do about that, right? So the big challenge maybe is how to keep people engaged, how to keep people motivated, and how to keep people really connected, because the technology will tell you that we can connect people, but it's not exactly like that when we talk about feelings, when we talk about motivation. We know how difficult it is. So remote work is a big trend, no, still a big trend, but there are many challenges that we have to overcome, right? Uh, what else? Technology enablement. Actually, technology is something that is always being improved. It's always evolving, and it's the true for project management or PMOs. So more and more interesting solutions and platforms, integrated platforms will arise, no doubt about that. And this will help us with the next trend, that is data analytics. That's something that I believe we can really do in a much better way that we are doing today. So we have a lot of data. We have many information that are just ignored, or they are not reliable as they could be, and it could help executives to make much better decisions. So I think that we underestimate the power of the data that we have in our companies when we talk about projects. There are many other areas that they have been already managing these ideas very well, business areas, financial area. But when we talk about projects, it's not exactly like that. We can do it much better, I think. So I see that technology will help us with that, and it will connect, maybe it will, or certainly it will connect with artificial intelligence in a near future, right? So as you can see, there are many opportunities. We could say much more, right? We can find some people talking about portfolio management. I couldn't say that it's a trend because it's not something really new, and it depends on the maturity of the companies, right, to be implemented. But it's important, no doubt about that. We can see some people talking about benefit management. It's connected with portfolio management in some way. It's something important too. We see many other possibilities, but what all of this stuff has in common is the fact that all of them are technical stuff, right? We're talking about technical aspects, technology, process. Uh, we are not talking about people, right? So usually when people talk about trends, they focus very much on this specific technologies or processes or some kind of stuff that can be a trend. I agree, but anyway, they are not directly connected or focused on people. They are enablers, in fact, right? So because of that, as I told you, we started to analyze what PMOs have been doing, those outstanding PMOs that participated in the last editions of our PMO Global Awards. This way, we can try to understand a little better what they believe that should be trends. Not because they are saying that, but because they are acting in that direction. You know what I'm saying? So that's the point. And we can see that there is an old way and a new way to do things. No doubt about that. The old way, I could say that it was much more focused on the technical. So people was discussing which would be the best technique to be used, if we should adopt agile because it's the best way, and we should quit traditional project management, if this tool is better than that one, this kind of discussion. But actually, something has changed. And now it looks like the most outstanding PMOs, they are much more focused on people. And when I say people, I'm talking about customers. It's a much more customer oriented approach. So, okay, we can use this methodology or that methodology. We can use some different types of platforms or technology. But all of this exists just to let us reach our real objective, that is satisfy people, satisfy our customers. So there are many different ways to get there, right? So that's something that comes from the customer service area. It's not something that people, project management people, usually study, and talk about that. It's a little different field, knowledge field, but a lot of this interesting field can be brought to project management area, to PMOs, and this fusion is something that I believe that it has been happening in the last year, and it will be more and more strong in the next years. Okay, so there is something that I see that is a big change too, and it will become more and more strong. It could be a trend observed in those PMOs, is that they are not they are not very concerned anymore to choose a specific model of PMO. We know that there are many of them. If we take some PMO books or try, to search about that on websites, we will see that there are many authors proposing many different types of PMOs and different approaches. And the point is, which one is the best one, right? Which one is the one that we need, right? And that's not an easy question. And of course, there is no easy answer. because all these models, these pre-established models, they are like these boxes that you can see, right? These boxes, when you open them, you will find something that makes sense in the head of that person that proposed this model. So, for example, if you open the box of a supportive PMO, you will find some functions that should be provided by a supportive PMO. So if you say, oh no, what I need is a supportive PMO. Okay, so that's what you should do as a supportive PMO. If you decide to have a VMO, a value management office, you will see what people propose that a VMO should provide in terms of functions, in terms of activities. Again, that's what you have to do. So this kind of approach, it makes things simpler for people understand the different possibilities, but at the same time, it push people understand that they should choose one of these boxes. So what is the best box at this moment? What is the trendy box that I should choose for the next years? You know what I'm saying? So, for example, I could say, supportive PMOs doesn't make sense anymore. It's too much traditional. From now on, it should be an agile PMO, or it should be a VMO, or you know what I'm saying? So what we see in the real world is that from time to time we have new magic pills, right? So each box is a kind of magic pill, right? So it means that people there is a trend, but it doesn't mean that it's good. People are always looking for magic pills, but it's a continuous trend because it always happened, in the corporate world. So the point is, okay, magic pills look good, they look easy, they look maybe the best way to do something, but again, magic pills are supposed uh, to heal you, right, in all your pains, and it doesn't depend on the pains you have. We know that it doesn't exist, right? So the problem is when you decide to take one of that boxes because it's the trendy PMO for the next years, you are establishing some kind of commitment with a specific type of approach, with a group of functions. You are saying that your PMO should be like that, but you are doing that before understanding what your company really needs. It doesn't make sense, because it's like a product looking for a customer, and it should be the opposite. We should have customers looking for a product, and the product is the PMO. You know what I mean? So this way, when we just take the magic pill or we take one of that boxes, what we see very commonly is this kind of thing. The blue cube is the box that you got, that you've taken. So the big red and green cube is your organization. So that's your solution. That's the product that you believe that is the best one or is the perfect one. And now you are pushing it to make it fit. But we know that it doesn't happen like this. So this is the big trend here, is that this kind of approach, this kind of perspective is something that is changing in the most mature PMOs. They are not very concerned anymore to follow, specific types of PMOs, or we still see people talking about that very much. And why? Because all these ideas, they come from consultants, authors, and of course, they have their own perspective and point of view. So they are defending them, and they are absolutely right. I'm not saying that they are not right or they are lying. No, no, no. It's their point of view. But maybe because companies are becoming more and more mature, and PMO professionals too, they don't have this, strong need to follow someone or to find a magic pill. I'm talking about the most evolved PMOs. So actually, they start to understand that they can do it by themselves. All that boxes can be useful in some way, but I don't need to take a box. I can open all of them and start to take what is important for me. And this way, we will not be like the herd, anymore. We will be different, but not different because, oh, we should be different. No, no, no. It's because each company deserves a different PMO, different in a way that it makes sense for that specific company. You know what I mean? So that's the point. That's what looks a real trend. PMOs, they are realizing that they should be different, that they should adapt. So in the past, many times we saw PMOs that just say, no, that's the correct way. That's the ideal way to do things. That's the best practice. That's the best technique. That's the best tool. And the company don't know about all of this, and the company should adapt to all these good things. Today, it's the opposite, I could say, and in the future, it will become stronger. Actually, we should adapt to the company needs, respecting the culture, respecting the maturity, and absolutely respecting the real needs, the real world needs. And they will be different from company to company. So that's why I usually say that the PMO is like an elephant, right? And if you are blindfolded around the elephant and you touch the elephant, trying to tell which animal is that one. If you are close to the tail, you say that it's a snake. If you are at the side of the elephant or close the ear, you say that it looks like, I don't know, a fish. If you are in the tail, you say that it's a worm. Which who is right, right? In fact, in some way, all of them are right because that's their perspective. That's why I said that when we read an article, when we read a blog post, when we read a book, there will be many, many proposals, possibly proposals of boxes, like this is the best PMO, this is how a PMO should be. I'm not saying that these people are saying something wrong. No, no, no. But they are saying something that they could see at the position that they are or they were around the elephant. You know what I'm saying? The problem is, are you sure that you are in the same position? Because if you are not, I'm sorry, but that thing, exactly like this, will not fit to your needs. That's the point. That's the point. Let me give you an example. So imagine that we are talking. We are talking with a group of people, right? Like 10 people, and they are very experienced on losing weight. Okay, they are very experienced on losing weight. All of them had this experience, a successful experience in some way, and we make questions to them. The first question is, how much of you believe that the best way of losing weight is stop eating too much? And maybe 9 will raise their hands and say, oh, I believe that it's one of the best way. Very good. You ask another question. How many of you believe that the best way of losing weight is going to the gym, right? Starting to exercise. 8 or 7 of them will raise their hand and say, yes, that's how I believe that we can lose weight. Very good. And you can ask, hey, Americo, or hey, group, how many of you believe that the best way of losing weight is playing guitar, right? And just one of these people will raise his or her hand and say, hey, I believe that the best way of losing weight is playing guitar. Oops, really? Yes, that's how I did. Ah, very good, very good. Just one, right? Very good. But look, if you decide to buy his book, if you decide to attend his speech at a big conference, if you read all white papers that this person wrote, if you talk to him, he will make you believe that is the best way. And why? Because this is his true experience, so he's not lying. He was successful with that. But the point is how frequent it is. How frequent how is the probability that you can repeat that same experience in your scenario? You know what I mean? So that's why when you read books, read white papers, you should be a little critical about that because, again, there is no right or wrong in management usually, right? So all ideas can be useful in some way, but not because you have to follow them blindly, but because you can be inspired by them, by these books, these white papers, and create your own solution. That's the point. And why? Because you are looking to generate value, right? And when we say value, value is a very easy word, easy in terms of everyone say that, right? But it's not easy in terms of generate that, right? Not only because it's difficult, but because what is value? What is value for a PMO, right? Is it money? Not necessarily. In fact, a PMO is a service provider, right? And we have customers. And we know that our customers, they have pains. They have expectations. They have pains that, they would like to have more. For example, an executive would like to have more reliable information to make a decision. A project manager could want a better control of time and cost. Team members could want to feel more motivated to work in projects, right? So as you can see, there are many different pains. Okay, so imagine that you are going to a doctor and you talk to the doctor, and one of the first things that the doctor says is, hey, I have here a list of medicines. All these medicines are really good, top technology. They are really, really good. That's the list. Please tell me what you want. You can choose what you want. Does it work? The answer is absolutely no. And why? Because, in fact, for you, for the patient, the medicine doesn't matter. What you want is to be healed, right? And if you are providing me the best solution, the best medicine, the most technological medicine, but it's not enough, or it's not what will heal me because my pain, you are giving me a great medicine for diabetes, and what I have is just a pain in my stomach. Of course, I will not see value, right? Of course, because I'm still in pain. So the point is, the medicines in the real world of PMOs are like what you can find in those boxes. If you just take one box, there is a group, a set of medicines at that box, and you are saying, hey, patient, the PMO customer, you have to take this medicine. I don't know exactly what you have in terms of pains, but that's the best medicines. Go ahead, because now this is the new trend, the tantric PMO, and the tantric PMO should do this, that, and those are the medicines. So you should take them because they are really good. They are the trend, but you are not really concerned about which pains your patient has, right? So the point is, if we want to generate value, to generate perception of value, it should be the opposite. We should create solutions that can fit. It's interesting because we talk about that all the time. One size doesn't fit everyone. But the point is, okay, but how can we use this idea on PMOs? It's the same approach, right? We have different patients, we have different customers with different pains, and of course, our PMOs will be different. And that's why PMOs are so different. All of them are PMOs, but if you look closer, you will see that they do something totally different. And if you try to just, oh, that's the benchmarking, I'm gonna bring all that experience to my company, perhaps it will not work. Probably it will not work. And why? Because you are at the tail of the elephant, and you are trying to bring to the tail of the elephant that experience that is valid if you are in the close to the ear. You know what I'm saying? So that's exactly the point, And this way, if you can understand the needs, the pains of your customers, you can create a PMO that maybe at the end of the day, you can't say that it's a VMO or agile PMO or a strategic project manager, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can be a little of each one. It's like if you took from many different boxes what are the best medicines to heal your patient. So maybe your PMO will be something like that. It's not a normal animal, I could say, right? But it doesn't matter. It's that what you need, and that's what you need at this moment. So you can have maybe a catfish, right, or a shark horse, or a alligator fly or something like that, right? But what really matters is it works for you, right? It works for you. And finally, I would like to tell you something very, very, very important, because everything that we are talking about here is companies, PMOs, they are much more focused on their customers. They are becoming more flexible. They are quitting pre-established models and try to create something that makes sense for them. Uh, Everything that we are talking about is much more people, a customer-oriented PMO than a technique-oriented PMO, right? So we are talking about what we should do to generate value, to generate perception of value for our customers, right? Great. So, okay, now we believe that we are providing the correct medicines to our patient, right? So we decided to take, for example, portfolio management from the box of strategic portfolio, a strategic PMO. We took an agile approach from the agile PMO box. We took benefit management from the value management office box, and that's our PMO. Okay. But the point is, if we want to generate perception of value, There is another important topic that is how good you are on what you are doing. And that's the point, because in the past, people was very focused on being good on what they were doing. We can call that maturity, right? So if you are more mature, you are really good on what you are doing. But the point is, what you are doing is what you should do. That's the point. Peter Drucker said that nothing is more useless than doing in the best way something that should not be done, right? And that's exactly the point. Because if you took the wrong medicines, they could be really good, but they will not generate value. And why? Because they will not heal your customer's pains, right? But the opposite is true. The opposite is, okay, now we have the correct medicines, but actually they don't have good quality, for example, right? Or we took the best functions, the most important functions for our company, but we are not performing them in the best way possible. And that's what maturity means for a PMO. There are some people that understand maturity for PMOs in a way that I will not say that it's a wrong way, but that's not the real word. That's not what we really see in those companies that are successful. And the way that some people understand PMO maturity is that a PMO could be more operational, more tactical, or more strategic, and they should evolve their maturity like this. So if you are becoming more strategic, it means that you are becoming more mature. But in the real world, that's not what happens. And why? Because, in fact, if you are operational, if you are tactical, or if you are strategic, it's not a matter of maturity. So maturity, instead of improving from the operational to the strategic level, it will improve like this. So you can do maturity, you can do operational things, operational functions in a bad or in a very good way. You can provide tactical functions in a bad or in a very good way. You can provide strategical functions like benefit management in a very bad or in a very good way. Let me give you an example. I'm providing methodology, right? It's a tactical function. Okay, in my company, I provide methodology as a PMO, and my methodology, people are not trained. They don't use that in most of the projects. The adoption rate is really low. There are a lot of resistance. Am I providing methodology? The answer is yes, but with a low level of maturity. And if I take a look on your PMO, I will see that you are providing methodology too. But in your company, people really believe on that. They are trained. All projects use the methodology. There is no resistance. Of course, you are much more mature than me, right? And we are doing the same function. We are using the same medicine, you know what I'm saying? But the quality of your medicine is much better than mine. Of course, the chances that you generate perception of value will much higher than in my situation. So what I'm saying is we are doing the right thing, but in different ways, right? So the point is you can be operational and you can be mature. You can be strategic and you can be mature or no, or not. So maturity is how much good you are on what you are doing. And it can be any kind of thing. Okay, Americo, but it should be aligned with the needs. Exactly. That's why alignment is the second aspect. Alignment will be like this, right? You can be a little more strategic, you can be a little more operational, you can be very well balanced, providing operational, tactical, and strategic functions. In fact, most of the PMOs are like this, but it's another aspect. So alignment without maturity will not let you generate all the potential of value that your PMO could create. On the other hand, maturity without alignment, you are just wasting money. People will say, wow, your PMO is great, you are doing a great job. Yes, technically speaking, but your customers, they can't see the value because you are trying to heal pains that they don't have. So, in terms of conclusion, I could tell you that the most important trend that we could say to consolidate all these ideas is that it looks that the most outstanding PMOs, they don't copy and paste, right? They don't copy and paste. They are not looking for magic pills. They are not trying to find the ideal box, of solutions. They just understand that they have to be flexible and create PMOs or rethink their PMOs in a way that can keep it always aligned with the real needs and in a very good level of maturity. That's the point. Oh, Americo, but I believe that a PMO should be like that. It doesn't matter. What you believe doesn't matter. What really matters is what your customers need. Oh, Americo, but my executives, their needs are very operational and they should be strategic. Okay, but they aren't. They aren't, right? That's the reality. So you are a service provider. You have to generate value. So start delivering their operational needs, their operational benefits, and seed for the future. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe now they don't have strategic needs or strategic pains, not because they don't exist, but because many companies, we have to consider that sometimes our customers, they are not mature enough to understand some specific needs that they are supposed to have. You know what I'm saying? You don't know that you don't know. So it's impossible for you to see the value of what you are offering, or of what the PMO is offering, because I can't understand it. I'm not mature enough to understand that. It's like if you take a 3-year-old child and give two options, right? What do you want? Do you want this Ferrari toy, remote control Ferrari toy, or do you want this key that is the real Ferrari that is outside? Possibly this child, 3 years old, I know that 3 years old child today is very smart, but probably this kid will say, I want a remote control car. We know, we are more mature, we know that the real Ferrari, it's much more valuable, but the child can't understand that right now. And it's not his fault, it's just the reality. So again, PMOs, successful PMOs, they respect their customers because the customer is the focus. It's not the technique, right? And because of that, we have to be flexible and to adapt, right? And this way, we will be able to become, as a PMO, one of the most important trends that I can see in all of these PMOs. They don't exist because themselves, because of the technique, because of PMI, because of that book. No, no, no. They exist just because they should be partners. They are there to enable their customers to be successful. That's the way that the PMO will be successful, right? So if you are doing a great a great technical job, it doesn't mean that you have a successful PMO. The way that you will measure if you are really successful as a PMO is how much success you are bringing to your customers, how they feel about that. So it's incredible because when we talk about value, money comes to our mind. But when we talk about the value generated by a PMO, it's something different. It's much more a feeling. It's that feeling when you ask your director, what do you feel about the PMO? Do you think that it's something valuable for you? And he or she will say, yes, it's important for me. And you could ask, okay, but why? And maybe she will say, I don't know exactly why, but I feel that it's something important for me, for our company. That's what you need. Because otherwise, you could say, oh, we are doing a great technical job, and nobody see the see the beauty of what we are doing. I'm sorry about your frustration, but the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So people are not seeing the beauty of what you are doing because it's not really beautiful for them. Because what really matters for them is that you can heal their pains. So that's the most important trend. And if you will use remote work, artificial intelligence, data analytics, all of this stuff, it will be only a way to get there. And you can choose what you need from those different boxes. They are just the way to get you there. So that's what I understand, right? As maybe the most important conclusion that we saw in those outstanding PMOs. They are committed with the customer, not with themselves or with technique or with any other, guru or something else. Everything is important. Everything can inspire us to create our own solutions and make our customers really happy, right? That's it. So I invite you to join PMO Global Alliance. I'm very happy today because this is a very important initiative organized by Peter Mihok from Hungary. Peter is a distinguished member of our community and other communities too. We are organizing this in a joint venture with other communities, the PMO leader, PMO officers, many PMI chapters. And as the founder of PMOGA, I could say that that's exactly what I believe. The world is too big, and a real community should connect other communities and local communities, because that's how the world is made, right? We are made of communities, right? And if we can be open for that, if we can work together in a complementary way, of course, we can generate much more results, much more benefits for everyone. So thank you, Peter, for all your efforts to make this day happen. Thank you for all the speakers that are participating today. Thank you for our friend communities that are with us. And it's a real pleasure to count on all of you. And of course, thank you to our attendees that are with us today. Okay, so thank you very much. It was a pleasure. We still have some moments. So if you have any questions, let me take a look on the QA area. You can see at the top right of your screen. Okay, let me see. Okay, Luis said, do PMO maturity models still have a place, or are they overly focused on process rather than value? Luis, that's a very good question. We have been working on an idea of an extension of our PMO maturity model that can also measure value, right? But that's not something really easy to be done. And why? Because process is something that you can establish a standard, but value, it will be very different. It will be very different from company to company, because value is the result of a comparison between expectation and reality. What is value for me perhaps will not be value for you. You know what I mean? So yes, I believe that maturity models, if they are in the right path, I believe that they can be useful. Of course, they have many limitations, but they can be useful. And why? Because measuring the process is still something important, but it's not the only thing to be done. Because again, you can have a great process, but you are not delivering value. So it doesn't mean that we have to abandon process and just focus on value, because to generate value, a good process is needed. You know what I'm saying? So the point is, how can we evaluate maturity? And maturity is very oriented to a process point of view, but also alignment, because value is much more focused on alignment. You know, I can be mature but not aligned with the needs. I can be aligned but not mature. And these two possibilities will lead you to failure. We need both of them, right? So that's what I believe. We have a group of people working on this idea. Again, it's not something easy to be done, because there are many different possibilities, and I don't want to create something that can let people understand that this is the only way, because there is no a way, an ideal way when we talk about PMOs. You know, there are many possibilities. We know that, and what is a great success in one company can be a great failure in another one. Again, it depends on where you are around the elephant, right? That's the point. What else? Janos. Hello, Janos. If you can choose one, what do you think which the best tool or process that you can implement the fastest way and successfully a PMO into our organization? Well, let me give you some different points of view, Janos. The point is, I told you that we have to choose the correct medicines depending on the pains, right? But we know that there are some medicines that they have a broad possibility of heal different types of pains. You know what I'm saying? You take, for example, aspirin, right? If you take it, it will help you with a lot of different types of problems. You know what I mean? It happens with PMOs too. So there are some functions that they can have a very broad impact in many different types of pains and expectations of benefits. For example, methodology, right? Tools, integrated tools like a PPM software, training. It's not a coincidence that these functions, they are the most common functions in most PMOs, right? And why? Again, because they are powerful, right? So I could say that if you try to think about these ideas of alignment, possibly you will find these functions among the set of functions that you should have at your PMO. They are very frequent in most PMOs. So this is a good way to start, right? But if I could really recommend something, is you should go further. You should try to map your stakeholders, your customers' expectations in terms of results. And if you want, you can use our methodology, the methodology that was developed by our community to date, really adopted in many countries. It's the PMO value ring. If you go to pmovaluering.com, you will find a web tool, and you can map the benefits expected by your stakeholders, and based on a database with the experience of our community, we have correlations that will tell you which should be the functions to be implemented or to be kept in an existing PMO, considering the benefits expected by your customers, right? So it can help you. Before using the methodology, the tool, I suggest that you try to learn more about the methodology to understand how to use it. There are some videos available on YouTube, so you can learn more about that. And even with the free account, you can make some initial analysis, and it can be very useful. But again, there are some specific functions that are very common in many PMOs. So if you don't do anything in terms of analysis, possibly we will start with them, right? You can choose one. Oh no, this. What are the practical? Now is Sean. Hello, Sean. What are practical steps a new PMO can take to identify resources, capacity versus demand across business unities within a business? Sean, there is a function that can be selected to your PMO that is resource management, support to resource management or provide resource management. Resource management is a very vast field, and why? Because there are many different approaches depending on the company, right? If you are, for example, a consulting company, there is an approach for that. If you are an IT department, it's another approach. If you are an IT company, right, it's another approach. If you are a construction company, it's different. And why? Because restrictions and assumptions will be different. What I could suggest is, if you decide to include in your PMO resource management, now there is a one step further. That is, okay, let me understand what resource management represent to us, right? And based on that, probably you will need some kind of platform or tool that can help you with that, because it's something complex, right? Especially if you have many resources. So it means that you should try to make it something automatic in some way, right? So there are some decisions. For example, should I appoint hours or not? It depends. If you are a service provider, it makes sense. If you are working in an IT department, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? So there are many things that should be considered. That's not an easy decision. This is one of the functions, a potential function for a PMO that is one of the most complex functions to be designed and implemented, right? There are some interesting tools. For example, there is a specific tool that is not well known, but they are very, very focused on resource management. I had the opportunity of learn more about them in the last 2 years, because they sponsored our PMO Global Awards, and we are very restrict about who can sponsor our events and our activities, only the good ones, The name is Tempus Resource by Procimetrics. They are really good, and maybe if you take a look on what they are doing, you will have a good idea about how much you should do about resource management and how much platforms can help you with that. There are other options. This is just something to inspire you, but there are other options that you can consider, right? Harikutan, hello, Harikutan. How objective and key results enable PMOs to connect people? How objective and key results enable PMOs to connect people, process, and technology. In fact, people, process, and technology is the way that you make you become more mature in anything that you are doing. So, for example, when you talk about providing methodology, process is the methodology that you are creating that can be flexible, maybe hybrid, you know. Technology is how you are automating this process. People is how you are training people or you are dealing with resistance, right? So let's talk about portfolio management. Now your PMO is supporting portfolio management. The process is how you're going to do that, right? So how you will select projects, prioritize, balance your portfolio, the criteria. This is the process. The technology is how you do that. You can use a PPM software. You can use some kind of decision-making software to support this process. For example, transparent choice or forest and trees, and you have people, and people now we are talking about executives, so we have to make them aware about the importance of portfolio management. We have to bring them into the idea of creating this portfolio management process. You know what I mean? So the point is, every single thing that your PMO can provide will involve in some way process, people, and technology. And how much better you are on these aspects will make your PMO more mature in this specific function, right? It's like CMMI in some aspects, right? Just a tip, right? Let me see if we have something. Okay, Amaresh, we still have 5 minutes, right, Peter? I think so. How can team members of a PMO influence? No, how can team members of a PMO influence PMO leaders about moving to new ways for the traditional approaches? There is a tendency of senior leadership to change and be flexible. And how can you influence and help them to change? That's a very good question. The point is, we have very different realities, right? Because we are talking about people. So we have PMO leaders that they are already mature enough to understand some specific things. We have executives in different levels of maturity. When I say maturity, means there is a model named Johari window. It's used in other fields of knowledge, but it's like a model that can let you understand how wisdom evolve, right? And there are four quadrants. The first one is you don't know that you don't know. And the second one is now you know that you don't know. If you want to make people understand the value of what you are proposing, they at least they have to know that they don't know. While they don't know that they don't know, they can't see value. So the point is, how can we make these people move from the first to the second quadrant, right? There are many different ways. And depending on the company, on the people that you are dealing with, the ways will be different. But for example, if you want to make your executives more aware about this kind of thing, you could try some benchmarking. For example, you could invite them to visit a company. That's something that we are in PMO Global Alliance. We are organizing a new project that will let people to do that, benchmarking. So you could invite people, experienced people, or a successful company to come to your company and tell about their experience. And you could say, Americo, but you told that we can't copy, right? So how can I visit a company, or how can I bring someone to tell about their experience? They should be different. Yes, you're right. But again, they are different because you can't copy them, but you can be inspired by them. And of course, when an executive see a peer, another executive saying that, oh, this is something of value, this is bringing benefits for us, it's easier to sell the idea, right? Because possibly he or she will feel, wow, maybe it can be good for me too, right? So that's the point, that's the point. And when we talk about traditional approaches and new approaches, be cautious about that, because this idea of traditional and new, it looks like something good and bad, something new and old, and actually it doesn't mean that the traditional is bad and the new is good. No, sometimes what is new can be very good for specific aspects. On the other hand, something that is old should be used in many situations, So in management, things are usually we don't quit things, we just improve them. And why? Because in management it's very difficult that something new comes and kill everything, it's not like in technology, right? So let's take something like the Balanced Scorecard. It was released in the 80s and it's still here, right? It was improved in many different ways, but it's being used in many companies. Oh, okay. Some people can say that it's not the best way anymore. We should do something different. Okay, but tell that to that executive that is being very successful in his company using the BSC. You know what I'm saying? So there is no right and wrong, right? What we have to do is to understand what is really useful for us, prepare our people, creating opportunities for them to move from a status of I don't know that I don't know to a status of now I know that I don't know. So please help me, right? And the PMO will be there. Okay. All right, all right. So I talked about culture. Thank you, Imran. The PMO maturity model. This is Luis' question. Okay, guys, thank you very much again for your time, for your attention. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, our friend communities. And I hope you can enjoy the rest of this event. It's a very special event, and I hope you enjoy the experience, right? So I will be waiting for you in the next opportunities, in the next conferences. And oh, by the way, don't forget that on February 1st, the PMO Global Awards 2022 will be open for applications, right? So join us, right? It will be a great experience, even if you think that, oh, but my PMO is not perfect. It will never be perfect, right? But when you join an experience like that, it's a great opportunity of learning, of exchanging experience, and maybe at the end you can have a great surprise, right? And be one of the winners. But if not, anyway, enjoy the journey, right? That's the spirit. Okay, so thank you very much. Talk to you soon.